10, the city of Quincy turns to its Fix or Flatten program to improve and enhance properties.
And nearly a dozen properties have their futures decided at tonight's council meeting. WGEM's Zeke Shapiro is here now to tell us about the fate of some of those properties. Zeke?
Over a dozen properties were admitted into the Fix or Flatten program tonight, but it doesn't look like there will be much fixing in the process. The Fix or Flatten program allows destroyed or damaged properties that have been taken over by the city to be improved. While fix might be in the name, Quincy Building Director of Inspection and Enforcement Michael Seaver says nearly all of the properties are beyond saving and will most likely be demolished.
In most cases, we can tell even from the outside, and in almost all cases, we've not made interior inspections of these properties, so these are all based on exterior observations. But when the roof is gone, the windows are gone, and that's been the case for quite some time, it's generally not feasible to make repairs to those, and they do become demolitions.
Seaver says in most cases, the properties have been damaged or owners have been foreclosed upon. I visited several of the properties today, and many did have structural damage and did not look habitable. One in particular had actually been purposely destroyed by the owner, but Michael Seaver told me that was a rare case. He did not give me a timeline of when the demolitions would begin.